Internet. I am Jay.
And I'm Z.
Together we are
JZ Theories.
We are now filming this after like 2 to 3 weeks after our first video. And you're wondering why we are waiting so long to film this? Well, we are now back together. We are gay partners. No, we are
Just
not.
kidding.
We
No,
are
we're
children.
not.
I am no way attracted to him at all. Unless you mean in the sheets. I'm gonna edit that part out. Screw it, I'm not gonna edit that out. But no, we're just best friends, also known as brothers. But yes, we have come to bring you the greatest theories ever. And why, most of the part, we were not doing any research for theories. I took it upon myself for the past few weeks to go really in deep to this one theory I stumbled across.
From The Office, y'all know Toby. Everyone is thinking that he is a strangler, and so is George.
We'll leave that for the rest of the video later on. So, as I stumbled across this, not being able to contact Zach for our phones were being stupid. So, as I stumbled across this, I started to binge The Office, trying to figure out, I'm trying to disprove this theory. I'm thinking I can find another person in The Office that's not Toby.
Not sponsored.
It smells nice.
I know.
That's not Toby, who could be the Scranton Strangler. My initial thought was Dwight Schrute.
Yeah.
But there is very little evidence to back that up. He has even gone on record to claim several times what he would do when he found the Strangler. And also, just want to say this. Do you know how difficult it is to disprove all the evidence other people have put on the table? All we really have is actually the show itself as evidence. But still, all this evidence. Not much, though. So, I thought I'll go on a quest to find the truth. Why, Zachy, what were you doing during the past few weeks?
School.
He's public schooled, I'm homeschooled.
Yes.
I have a lot more free time on my hands.
It's not fair.
Too much free time.
It's not fair. That's why he looks like this.
Okay, but yes. So I thought, surely there's got to be some other candidate. So I went searching and searching and searching until I found Toby. Toby. The best candidate to beat Toby on being the Scranton Strangler is Toby. So many other people. But if Toby is the Scranton Strangler, it brought up some interesting questions for me. Why? Mostly that's why. But another thing, why isn't Michael Scott dead? I mean, if he's truly the Scranton Strangler, he would surely have killed the person who's caused him the most torment in his life. Wouldn't he? But also, y'all might be thinking stuff like, he was on the case for the Scranton Strangler. Even though probably y'all aren't being too chatty while watching this video, so you probably aren't thinking that. But yeah, he was convicting the Scranton Strangler. Well, a lot of stuff Toby did in the show, after he convicted him and put him on death row, he started getting mixed emotions about him. But also, when they were chasing down the so-called Scranton Strangler in his car, who's caused him the most torment in his life, wouldn't he? But also, y'all might be thinking stuff like, he was on the case for the Scranton Strangler. Even though probably y'all aren't being too chatty while watching this video, so you probably aren't thinking that. But yeah, he was convicting the Scranton Strangler. Well, a lot of stuff Toby did in the show, after he convicted him and put him on death row, he started getting mixed emotions about him. But also, when they were chasing down the so-called Scranton Strangler in his car, everyone was in the room watching the news.
But Toby.
Just steals my big...
Toby is the strangler.
But
is what everyone thinks, at least.
But there's more. But there's so much more. You might think I didn't put a lot of time researching this. Well, you be right. Because I just mostly watched the show.
2 hours.
Did some researching online. Google is rather helpful.
Watch some highlights over Toby.
Yes, I watched Toby's highlights. And the thing that is, let's just get down to the detail of Toby. He's an HR representative. Not because he was fascinated by HR, no. It's the only job they had available, so he took it. He is really into the detective crime novels. He is, well, bland. Rather bland sometimes. But there's a lot to this character, like the things I've mentioned so far. He's having some trouble figuring out if the Scranton Strangler is guilty or innocent. He's still going with innocent. But he's not completely innocent. And also, he's having a rough patch with God. He's in the episode where they're dedicating Pim and Jam's Pim and Jam. Let's just do that bleepy thing that goes beep.
Pim and Jam.
Jim and Pam's baby.
You said
Jim and
Pim and Jam.
Jim and Pam's baby, when they're dedicating it at church, Toby is struggling to go into the building because he was saying how him and God aren't.
Because Pim and Jam are yeah, they're just Pim and Jam. So, yeah, Pim and Jam. I actually like peanut butter and jam instead of Pim and Jam. I don't know what Pim and Jam is. What's Pim and Jam? James, what's Pim and Jam? I know what peanut butter and jam is.
I'm gonna have to cut a lot of this out of this video.
What's Pim and Jam?
Zachy, shut up and let me do this.
What's Pim and Jam?
Back as I was saying, him and God are having a rough patch right now, he was saying. So, he doesn't go in until like near the end of the episode when he goes into the church, looks up at the stained glass portrait of God, and my partner for the show is probably getting himself some Pim and Jam. But yes, so when he goes in, he looks at the stained glass thing of Jesus and says, "Why are you so mean to me?" Which is showing that he's having moral issues and issues with his beliefs about God. So, like any other person, he has a lot of issues going on. But then, they actually do put the Scranton Strangler in jail, and he's going to be put on death row, as we see in one of the episodes, that he even gets strangled by said Scranton Strangler. But it's not the full story. Let me tell you the full story of what happened. So, Toby, an HR representative who works at Dunder Mifflin Paper Company for the Scranton branch, under a boss who he hates and torments him, with a staff that doesn't truly appreciate him, and with him trying to get his stuff, his books in order, his books, his crime, his podcast stuff, trying to get that in order. He's wondering about the perspective of the Scranton Strangler, of the perspective of a villain. How does a villain see things? So, in a desperate move to keep on to some sanity, he becomes the Scranton Strangler, but only part of it. Him and a friend of his, George, who is kind of cuckoo in the head, they decide to become the Scranton Strangler. They strangle people. Him is doing it out of pure rage and craziness. The other, Toby, is doing it to learn. But eventually, he wants to stop, and so he kind of tells the police of the location of George. So they actually get George, also known as the Scranton Strangler, the one that we put in jail on death row in the show. And so, after he sentences him to death, because he knows if he gets rid of George, no one can trace the Scranton Strangler back to him. No one can say he's the Scranton Strangler. And so he feels bad that he just sentenced a man to death. So in the episode, one of the episodes that I talked about earlier, he goes to see him, trying to reconcile friendship before his friend dies. Wants to apologize to him. But as he apologizes for what he's done, Scranton Strangler starts to strangle him, because if someone put you in jail and you're about to die because of that person, wouldn't you be pissed? So he starts strangling him. The guards obviously stop him. Toby's injured, and later on, the Scranton Strangler goes to death. Some of y'all might be thinking, some of y'all persistent commenters, actually haven't commented on any videos yet, but is any of this true? Toby maybe being the Scranton Strangler? Let me point you to a bit of evidence.
Toby was the only one not there the day the Strangler was captured, and because the Strangler's car was apparently at Dunder Mifflin at some point in time. Now, if Toby had been the car, he would have got caught, but the theory is he was out framing a man for the crime, and Toby does have some experience thinking about framing.
Sounds a lot like the premise of my latest Chad Flenderman novel, A Murder for Framing.
Toby, nobody cares about your sex-crazed black detective.
Toby was also absent from the hospital the day that Jim and Pam had their baby, and Toby being in love with Pam would have found that day particularly difficult. Toby publicly expressed misgivings and even personal guilt over the Strangler verdict, believing that an innocent man had been imprisoned, coupled with a few disconcerting things he said.
These are silent killers.
You are the silent killer. Go back to the annex.
You'll see. Hey, no. Get out of here. Clark, get out of here.
My mistake.
Yes, it is your mistake. It's lingering. It's so annoying. I'm gonna kill him.
Don't use his real name.
Toby Flenderson.
It's a devil name.
That evidence is telling you that, he could be the Strangler. I mean, they've even gone on record to say it themselves, that he could be the Scranton Strangler. And with that thought, I would just like for y'all to think about that. Zachy, get over here.
No.
I guess he's really hungry. With that thought, I would just like to leave you with that. So, do you think he's a Scranton Strangler? Or would you like to add some things that could end this theory? Leave it below in the comments. And I will get back to you. But until then, here's this outro. Look at this!